Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Mrinmoy Pramanik. I teach Comparative Indian Language and Literature at the University of Calcutta. Today we will discuss a module from Comparative Literature Drama in India, and the title of this module is Kalidasa's Abhignana Shakuntalam. The content is written by Surojit Maiti, University of Hyderabad. Abhignana Shakuntalam is a 7-act Sanskrit play written by one of the greatest poets of India, Kalidasa. Literally, the meaning of the name of the play is the recognition of Shakuntala by a token. It is first ever Indian play to be translated into any Western language. Sir William Jones first translated it into English in 1789. Thus, the play is not only one of the best works in Sanskrit literature, but also in the world literature. Abhignana Shakuntalam is a play based on a story from the Mahabharata. Kalidasa turned the story into an elegant piece of art by giving it the theme of love, passion, reunion, separation, the same into an elegant work of art with a lot of innovations. The play is not entirely a pure Sanskrit play, but some elements of some Indian dialects best known as Maharashtra Prakrit are found. The period in which the play was written has ever been unknown. It is probably because no evidence has it been found on the period of lifetime, but it is assumed that he might have lived in between 2nd century BC to 4th century AD. The play is beautifully intertwined with the dramatic power and poetic beauty. About the playwright, now let us talk brief about Kalidasa. Kalidasa is one of the greatest classical Sanskrit poets, is also universally regarded as the greatest of the Sanskrit dramatists of ancient India. We have very limited amount of information about his life and time, but we can have our idea about the period of his works by the historical references he gave in his writing. The identification of King Vikramaditya as the poet's patron in the prologue of Shakuntala refers to Chandragupta II, which indicates the Kalidasa would have lived in the Gupta Empire near the end of the 4th century. So we can assume that Kalidasa wrote sometime between the 3rd and 6th centuries. The writings of Kalidasa reveal his attachment to the city of Ujjaini, which is associated with contemporary Ujjaini in the western part of Madhya Pradesh. His versatility as a poet, dramatist, court person, his modesty, sense of self-respect are often found in his other works such as Vidya-mitram, Vikramarveshiyam, Abhignana Shakuntalam, and poems like Raghuvamsham, Kumarashambhavam, and Meghaduta. Abhignana Shakuntalam and its connection with Mahabharata. Let us talk few words about it. The version of Abhignana Shakuntalam in the famous epic of Mahabharata is slightly different to the original version. In the Mahabharata version, Shakuntala had to stay apart from her husband, King Dushwanta, for a very long time. It is only when their son Bharata was born that Dushwanta found him playing in the forest with a couple of lion cubs, opening their mouth with his bare hands, trying to count their teeth. Seeing a little boy playing with such courage amongst lions, Dushwant becomes curious about the boy and asks him about his parents. The little boy then takes him to Kanva Rishi's ashram, and Dushwanta meets Shakuntala and remembers everything. This fills up Dushwanta's heart with warmth and joy. He gets reunited with his long-lost family and takes his wife and his son back home in Hastinapur. And Bharata, the son of Dushwanta, is known as ancestors of Kauravas and the Pandavas. Now let us talk about the synopsis of the play. Let us summarize the theme of the play, stories of the play. First is prologue. The play opens with a benediction to the gods, and after the benediction, the director and actress are entered the stage. The director introduces the name of the play as Abhignana Shakuntalam and asks to treat the audience with a song about the season summer. She sings so well that the director is spellbound and forgets why he is on the stage until she reminds the purpose of their appearance. The prologue ends with the director mentioning about falling of memory and relates it to the hunting Dushwanta. First act or act 1. Following the Nandi prayer, the director and an actress appear in a prologue. The director and the actress discuss the audience and the appropriate play to perform for them. They decide upon Kalidasa's play Shakuntala, but the director is so caught away by a song that the actress sings that he forgets which play they have decided on. The actress reminds him Dushwanta enters on a chariot chasing deer. A hermit stops him, pointing out that he has entered a hermitage in which the animal is protected. The king relents. The hermit blesses the king with the promise of a son. Now the second act. The clown Madhavya enters, complaining Madhavya and the king conspire to get close to Shakuntala. Dushwanta sends Madhavya back to the palace to participate in his place, the ceremonies marking the end of the king's mother's fast. Act 3. Having revealed his identity, King Dushwanta rests in the hermitage. The king spies on Anushwa, Priyamvada and Shakuntala, talking obliquely of romance. He discerns that Shakuntala is smitten with him. When Shakuntala sings a love poem, the king steps out of hiding. They all speak obliquely of romance. Anushwa and Priyamvada slip away. Dushwanta and Shakuntala get close, but the king hides when Gautami appears. The king puzzles over his failure to take advantage of the moment, then leaves to protect the evening rites. Act 4. Anushwa and Priyamvada discusses Shakuntala's marriage to Dushwanta, which has been accomplished simply by two lovers' common consent. They hear Durvasha's angry voice chasing Shakuntala for not attending to him properly upon his arrival at the hermitage. Because she is distracted by thoughts of her lover, the sage imposes a curse that her lover will completely forget her. Priyambada dashes off sage and returns to report that because she implored the sage to reconsider, Durvasha has allowed that although the king will forget Shakuntala, the glimpse of the ring the king gave to her will restore his memory. Shakuntala prepares to leave for the king's palace, escorted by Gautami, Sharangarab and Sharadvata. Shakuntala's departure from the hermitage is charged with emotion. Act 5. King Dushwanta sends Madhavya into the king's chambers to try to mollify Queen Hamshapadika, who is upset over the king's feelings for his other wives. The embassy from Karnava's hermitage is announced in the court. Shakuntala, Gautami, Sharangarav and Sharadvat enter. They all feel misgivings. Sharangarav informed the king that Shakuntala is pregnant and requests that the king receive her as his wife. The king has forgotten Shakuntala entirely and treats the request as a scam. Shakuntala discovers that Dushwanta's ring has disappeared from her finger, and Gautami speculates that Shakuntala lost it while bathing Shakuntala accuses the king of exploiting her. The king responds with accusations of his own. Sharangarab repudiates Shakuntala and refuses to return her to the hermitage, though Gautami pleads otherwise. A court priest convinces the king to allow Shakuntala to stay in the palace until she gives birth, so that her son can be examined for marks of royalty. The priest proposes to send her back to the hermitage if the child proves to have no such signs. The king consents to the priest's plan, but before it can be implemented, Shakuntala storms out, calling the earth to receive her. The report returns from offstage that a ray of light seized Shakuntala and carried her off. King Dushwanta is bewildered. Sixth act. Two policemen bring a fisherman to the chief of police with the accusation that the fisherman has stolen a royal signet ring the officers have found in his possession. The fisherman claims to have found it in the belly of a fish. The police chief goes to the palace and returns with the order to release the fisherman and with compensatory payment for the ring. The police chief reports that the sight of the ring disturbed the king. Sanumati comes invisibly to check up on Dushwanta and overhears two maids discussing the king's miserable condition with the royal chamberlain. Dushwanta has cancelled all celebrations. Sanumati comments to herself that Shakuntala is similarly miserable. Dushwanta and Madhavya talks of what has happened while Sanumati listens. Chaturika brings in the king's painting of Shakuntala. The king loses himself in the painting. Word comes that Queen Vasumati is on her way. Madhavya takes the painting and flees. Word of a shipwreck arrives. A wealthy merchant is dead. Dushwanta orders that the merchant's wealth go to one of his surviving wives who is pregnant. Dushwanta hears a cry of distress. Matali appears and takes Dushwanta to fight off demons threatening Indra. Act 7. Having vanquished the demons, Matali and Dushwanta pass through heaven. Dushwanta asks to visit Maricha's celestial hermitage. Matali leaves Dushwanta beneath a hermitage tree. The king hears a disturbance and finds a young boy wrestling with a lion cub. Dushwanta sees the marks of royalty on the boy. The boy's armlet falls off and Dushwanta picks it up. Two ascetics tell Dushwanta that if anyone but the boy's parents pick up the armlet, it turns to a snake and strikes the perpetrator. Shakuntala arrives. She does not at first recognize Dushwanta, who recounts the manner in which the ring restored his memory. Matali, Marich and Aditi arrive. They explain Durvasha's curse. Finally is reunited and returns to Dushwanta's palace. Major theme of the play Abhignana Shakuntalam. One of the major themes of the play is love and duty. Not only the Shakuntala, Barbara Stoller Miller writes, but all of Kalidasa's plays focus on the critical tension between desire and duty that is aesthetically manifest in the relation of the erotic sentiment or Sringar Rasa to the heroic or Vir Rasa. The tension inherent in Shakuntala, in other words, is between the four Purushartha, the aims of man: duty, desire, wealth and freedom, and not necessarily personal conflict. In the case of both Dushwanta and Shakuntala, duty and passion collide head to head. Dushwanta is pulled between his royal responsibilities, visible in his love of hunting and his eventual return to the kingdom, and his husbandly responsibility to receive Shakuntala and accept her son as his heir. Shakuntala finds herself in the middle of her ascetic responsibilities to receive guests, for example, and her wifely ones. Just as Dushmanto is a symbol of both royalty and passion, so is Shakuntala is a symbol of both asceticism and passion. As the sage's curse makes known, negative consequences can come of subjugating one's passion to one's other responsibilities. On the other hand, the ring of recollection points toward a possible integration of both love and duty. Next theme is the forest and the city. There is little doubt on the part of modern critics that Kalidasa loved nature as much as nature may have been common theme in classical Sanskrit poetry. There is something about Kalidasa's particular use of the natural world that stands out. In Kalidasa's treatment of nature, there is an emotional suggestiveness that was new to Sanskrit. In Girls' Rights, because of the suggestiveness of nature, the prospect of the life of contemplation is essentially uncreative. It offers solace rather than a cure. In Shakuntala, nature has the power to reintegrate conflicting aspects of life, becoming a locus of the harmonies of man and nature. Some go so far as to say that Kalidasa's use of the nature in the Shakuntala is spiritualized, and that an atmosphere of sanctity pervades the play. Kalidasa's personification of natural objects springs from minute observation, and these combine with fancies and conceits derived from mythology and tradition to produce the unique Kalidasa image. The consistent equation of Shakuntala with the natural world, however, may lead one to believe otherwise. There are in fact struggles inherent in Shakuntala's character and in her relationship with Dushmanta that are expressed through natural images. To begin with, many agree that Shakuntala's character and the natural world are deeply intertwined throughout the play. Kalidasa presents the heroine as nature's darling, innocent as a deer, and caught up in a love for a highly sophisticated man, writes Krishnamurti. Yet if Shakuntala is so deeply associated with the positive creative forces of the mango blossom, and if there is no jealousy or infidelity in nature as there is in the royal court, we might have to come up with another explanation for the spurned queen Hamshapadika's song in Act 5 about Dushmanta's infidelity. For in this song, not only are the images of nature used as a metaphor for the king's cheating, but Hamshapadika herself takes the place of the mango blossom, while Shakuntala is the lotus preferred by Dushmanta. Swahani points out that the Shakuntala who is forgotten is the early Shakuntala, so deer-like as to be almost a doe herself, so akin to the creeper, the leaf, the petal, as to be simply one more instance of the natural world whose submission to the king is eroticized but also critiqued by the movement of the drama. Not all is harmonious in nature. Still, there is something fantastical about nature that Kalidasa is eager to bring out in Shakuntala. The very prologue shows us through the actress Prakit's song about summer just how easy and pleasant it is to lose oneself in the natural perfection of the forest, like Kanno's pupils who accompany Shakuntala to Dushmanta's court. We too are reluctant to leave the natural comforts of the forest. They and we curse the city and its king when nature symbolized by Shakuntala is rejected from a place beside urban life symbolized by the king. The traditional equation of outer beauty with inner virtue comes out in Kalidasa's use of nature, especially in the way that even the most simple of the forest character are highly polite. Now the next issue is art and the connoisseur. Shakuntala explores an interesting connection between the pleasure of love and the pleasure of art. Kalidasa's heroes are not just kings and lovers, stoller millionaires, but connoisseurs of natural beauty and art, according to Kalidasa. Aesthetic pleasure, like deep love, depends on attention to detailed and continual discovery of new associations. In the Shakuntala, connoisseurship appears with respect to visual art. Everyone who has read Kalidasa will recall a verse or two on painting and sculpture. Ingalls comments, but it is only when these references are collected that one sees how deep an impression these arts made on the poet. One is reminded of the dependence of Virgil's poetry on art, especially on mural paintings. Now, let us conclude our discussion. Shakuntala can be compared to the plays based on the Ramayana and consider the problems of moral choice and fate. The hero Rama is confronted with choices to be made and is driven by a certain fate. The mood of pity pervades the story. Similarly, in Shakuntala as in the Ramayana, suffering is displayed for the sake of relishing the state of suffering. The production of Sanskrit literature reached its height of development in the first to 7th centuries. In addition to sacred and philosophical writings, such genres as erotic and devotional lyrics, court poetry, plays, and narrative folktales emerged. The Sanskrit philosophies were the source of philosophical writing in the later literatures, and the Sanskrit schools of rhetoric were of great importance for the development of court poetry in many of the modern literatures. Shakuntala by the author Kalidasa is in the literary form of a drama and a heroic romance. It is a work which celebrates the harmonious interplay and ultimate unity of complementary aspects of reality. Unity emerging from diversity pervades the entire work at many levels. And this play of Kalidasa has immense influence in the later Indian literature, especially modern Indian literature. Abhignana Shakuntalam adapted and translated widely in different Indian languages, and it is one of the major Indian texts what is responsible to form new prose style in different Indian Bhasha languages. Thank you.